Sheesh yoxatini chashtakat Johan Yayaki. Wait, dacht was the good. Achtu yik a dadu te chutank koa. Guksa we táakw. Táakw iti uwaya gank. Gwash naski gi koa ye awe koach yayaki. Dleit dak guchsatan yank. We dleit ḳutí. Tlesha atina khat uti yayidat. Gwash koa tleshach tua ushku koa ikḳwadeiḳ. We ḳutí. T'aawáŝ ituati we ḳutí. Adaye jakwani. Ye awa achtu yik yayaki tltakat Johan. Wooching khasati. Ya tlingit dat ye jagachtune. Yayaki tlingit dachkat letkak inach ate. A itia ya achtu asagu at yitle yer hayuk atangi. Gashi saku echwasaku gwatksa gwash tlek tak shuwahichen. Wan qanians a yahayi iwakshi he kwasani. A qakhan kakini gwe tlek a Wooch ithyuk atankada. Nakats Wooch T'aawáḳ. Wait atsu a yach. Gwash achtuasagu a yahayi iwakshi he kwasani. A qa tlek winnet iji ikḳwati. Yuch atank achtuasagu a dark yi tea gwalkiwe. Gulchish gwalli tuasagu llingit qinach yuqi yatani yak qaqwati aqa awe qone adaye jagachtuni. T'aawáḳ du yuqatangi. Tuagasagu yuqi yatani llingit qinach. Okay. Okay, what was I talking about?
The snow. Like it was warm.
Snow? Yeah.
Or something like that. Something.
Winter?
It said the prefix on a different, like guch something or guch
Oh,
something.
Gusu we táakw. Gosh tlech Táakw iti uwaya. Feels like spring. It looks like spring. Feels like spring. Naski gi koa dleit satan.
It will snow for 3 days.
Yeah, naski gi
On the third day,
on the third day, which is
Wednesday.
Wednesday. I heard it's gonna snow on Wednesday. And I said, dleit tleshatina khat uti. Tleshach tua ushku koa ikḳwadeiḳ. We ḳutí.
Ka weekend, kunas
Oh, yeah, well. So I was saying I don't need my shovel, but then I don't want to challenge the weather. So then I had to change my ikḳwadeiḳ is, I'm going to challenge it. Yeah. So deil is the verb root, 0. I think it's a 0 conjugation, might be no. ikḳwadeiḳ. I know that's when I first heard it. I knew I knew the verb, but then the first time I heard it was when a very tall, high fluency elder with cool looking sunglasses walked up to me on a nice sunny day on a beach and said, ikḳwadeiḳ. And I was scared because I knew he was going to say something very complicated, and he did. I can't remember what it was, but I do think I met the challenge. I'll say I did because it's my story. Let's see. I think I have it here. Yeah, here it is. So just like continuing to think about new verbs that we might hear and then how we might sort of internalize them, which is, I think, is a lot of our work. I was reading something today that talked about how do people learn languages, and it seemed like a lot of the don't do this thing was a lot of the things that I do. So it's okay, we don't have to think the same. So you have object, subject, zero classifier, deixʼ. So so in this case, I would think you'd say ikḳwadeiḳ, which maybe I don't remember hearing the yay part. Like maybe, I'm sure you said it. So then we see, but this like theme gives us everything we need to know. It's always long and low. And then you're going to say ʼqadeiḳ, challenge them. And then you could use this any way you want to now. And so you could say ʼatudli.átk, they challenged me. Y'kwadeiḳ, I'm going to challenge them. T'aawáḳ or ikḳwadeiḳ. So the yay in front of it, if I don't know if we've really talked about this in depth, but for kukha is the first person future. Kukha. But if there's a vowel before it, it will become kukwa. So K underline K W A. Otherwise, you got K U underline K A. So I like to think of it as kukha, and then you can have kukasa, kukasha, kukasha, any of those. But it will be kukha unless there's a vowel before it, which will push that contraction to happen.
Kune,
Ah,
when you said that, I thought that you had said you had shamed the weather. So
Dave, Dave is right down, should be just right. And so then right underneath here we got deix, which is to protect. Oh, that's a nice one. And again, so here's a zero. So we don't need anything in the future, but it does have yun in front of it. And then you get yende. And then here's deix, to be ashamed. And so ḳutí, they're never ashamed. Ikḳwadeiḳ, be ashamed. Kayadeiḳ, they are ashamed. And then this is to be shamed by someone. So here you'd say, do ye jneich ḳutí. Their work made them ashamed. And then ťakḥwadeiḳ, I'm real ashamed. Sean. Okay. So that's kind of, and then I was just saying we're going to be working on, well, I talked about our work a little bit. Does anybody remember what I was saying about our work? So what we're going to do now and what we're going to do later.
We're going to have rooms to kind of hang out with on Zoom. And that's kind of going to be part of our midterm, I think.
Oh, I didn't say it was a good idea. You gotta get this.
Pretty sure I heard something about translating.
Yeah, so we're going to translate again from Tlingit to English like we've been doing. And then I think after that, I did a thing, I can't remember, I think it was with you folks, maybe, where I found this like little program that will randomly select a picture. And so I fed a bunch of pictures into it from the beginning Tlingit workbook. So what we're going to do is we'll do a little, because we're doing like language translation stuff, but I want to do language production stuff after this. And then we'll keep looking at verb modes and components. We'll do that the whole time. But in the production side of things, what I want to do is I'll put a picture of something up from the beginning Tlingit workbook. So it should be a lot of those are very common nouns. They're all noun pictures, I think. And then I will give you 1 minute to create a sentence for your speed language production sessions. Anything, I think that's most of what I said. Any thoughts or questions, language stuff that you wanted to share?
I had a question, and so I was looking at is why do some verbs in the command form have a pronoun and some don't? like ʼatudli.átk
Yes.
is a pronoun, but like nata doesn't.
Anybody know the answer? And the question was, in the command form, why do some verbs have a pronoun and others do not?
They may not have a pronoun in the theme.
Well, just like when you say nata, there is no pronoun there. But which is go to sleep. But if I say put your shoes on, I'd say ʼutudli.átk. So it says ʼutudli.átk.
Yeah, if it's plus D, if it's got a D.
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
So here's the rule for the command. For the first person command, there is just no pronoun. It just seems to disappear. But then it must reappear if the classifier is plus D. The logic behind it is if there is a consonant in the prefix, there must be a vowel. You can never have just a consonant. I think it would never allow you to just go s or sh or can't. And so it will force, and it might not even be, well, this is getting a little deep. So if we look in the verb dictionary, we can see an example of a peg vowel. So a peg vowel pops up. Let me use a different version. When Tlingit needs to connect two consonants, it will sometimes insert a peg vowel. You'll see this with, like when you say, so deixʼ, hadech'k, but you say hadech'k isani. So you get this little I that pops up there. Where you say ʼaakw, and then you say ʼaakw, and you get this little U that pops up there. That doesn't mean anything. It just helps you get to the next sound. But there's other times where that thing will pop up, and specifically, if the verb prefix does have a vowel, does have a consonant, but no vowel, Tlingit will force a vowel to pop in there. And I'll show you an example. Do we know the verb wooch? Or do we know the noun ʼaakw? Okay, let's go find. So I think, let me put this up here. If my eyes go all over the places, because now we have a split screen now, which is cool. But sometimes I sit over there and there's a monitor and you can see both of them. But I like to sit here. It's fun.
I don't see what you're looking at.
I haven't put it on the screen yet. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
So we're going to go under color. Let me zoom in a little. So when we go down to color, we see this verb, which is for specifically a sockeye or a coho to change their color. I think it could also apply to a dog salmon. To change their color when they hit the fresh water. So ʼaakw means a freshwater salmon, usually a sockeye. And so we see this, one thing that we'll sort of just keep in mind, that should be a short vowel. They tend to write some long vowels or some short vowels as long. ʼat with the ʼaakw. The sockeye has changed its color. And then you see this next one, ʼukts is ʼaakw. Where this does not mean you, I'm not talking to the coho peoples or a coho salmon. And even if you claim this as your crest, I wouldn't be talking to you either. This is a peg vowel. So this is z, but in this case, when you go to the repetitive form, which is what this is a zero conjugation repetitive form. You can't just say s'aakw, like Tlingit will not allow that. And so you get is'aakw. There are other cases where you'll see this. So I bring this up because you might just say the rule is a second person singular command never has a pronoun. But we know that every prefix, if it has a consonant, it must have a vowel. And I, the letter I, is the default peg vowel for Tlingit. So think of it either way you want. You're going to end up with the I and the plus D anyways.
So that, like, ḳusk, ʼidiyaq, that's not a pronoun, but ʼidiyaq.
Yes, the second person plural will always have the pronoun. So then it pops up, yeah. Just regard all the time, all the time. So I would say ʼidiyaq. It's probably not a real pronoun, but it's also impossible to tell. It's impossible.
Oh.
So you'll say ʼatishkan, jump around,
Right.
right? Or, well, jump. I'm just saying, like, you probably had to say jump on it, is what that really, jump to it, I guess. But you'd say nish, no, you'd say nishken. Yeah, so it's there too. So if you get na, ga, or qa, if it's plus C, you'd also have to have the I in there. I think. Okay. Oh, that's a good way to test. You would say nish, ade nishken. Yikshe? Let me open. Let's go to the verb database and see. Oh, yay. Sorry, let's just catch up on the chat. Yeah, so 1 minute, you would have 1 minute to make a sentence. Backtracking a little bit. Okay, so let's test our, my theory. So to see, like, so if the theory was, it's not an actual pronoun, it's a peg vowel because you must have a vowel if you have a consonant. The way we can test that, I think it was ruined already. It's got to be the pronoun. Because ʼidiyaq wouldn't require, it has a vowel already.
Oh, from the...
Never mind. Okay, amendment to the rule. The rule is, in the command form for the second person singular, you never have a pronoun. Unless the classifier is plus D, then you must have a pronoun. There it is. Motion carries. Sorry. Okay, any other questions? That was a good one. Okay. So we went through some of these. I'll show you what we were. Oh, there's another one. So we were using these. Let me put this up there too. So to do verb analysis, we were using this document right here. So we have these little things, and we can type into these boxes, and we can see kind of where we left off. So this is, I have to figure out a few more things about this. So there is, according to, and I'm meeting with ikḳwadeiḳ this week, but there is something different about this ya right here. And he was saying he always wanted to call it like the fifth conjugation class. And so there is something that it does to motion verbs, and it is not the vertical surface one that we know, like in ʼaawdati or ʼatudli.átk. And so it does mean something, it does do something. I haven't fully figured it out. I know last week I was saying let's just chop it off so we could just analyze this. And so we're going to keep it on there. We do have, though, or it is said to me, my grandparents did it, which is really interesting to go like fourth person and then specify who's doing the thing afterwards. That's not very common. When or then you boat past the canoe trail, when then it gets stormy on you, and I think we left off here, and we're going to go one verb at a time, and we're going to try a slightly different way to look at them. Let me close my email. Okay. So let me find where. So this is another way that we might do this. The picture on this screen that we have is bad. Okay, it's very washed out. Okay, we'll do our best. Okay, so here is, can everybody see that? I know it's probably pretty small. Let me try and make this bigger. Okay, let's see if I can make this. Where's my zoom? Okay, I could zoom in a little bit. Okay. Maybe I can't zoom in that much. Maybe I think I can. Okay, so here's our verb phrase is ʼatudli.átk. And so this is a little bit of a different approach, where this shows you, I think I've maybe mapped out where the preverbs can be. And so these are drop down, oh, this is gonna be too hard. I can't read. Chush and whoosh. Everything is incredibly tiny. Okay, hold on, let me try to realize my dream in a different way. Okay, so if I go to 90, then I zoom in this way. Okay, maybe. Is this stuff, can you folks read this? Is it too small?
It looks okay to me.
Okay.
I've also got a really big monitor, but
I'm on a laptop, it looks okay.
Okay, sheesh. So I think what I did is I lowered the zoom within the document, and then I just zoomed in to the web browser. Okay, anyways, so I'm going to hit this share button. Anyone with this link is an editor, and I'm going to put this in the chat. And this means some brave soul gets to take on the task of figuring out what components are in here. Anybody feel up to the task?
I do not feel up to the task, but is this sort of based on the conjugator things that you had? Like you can only fill in one or two of the slots? And,
yes, except
no?
it's a little bit
Yes.
more, like I think you have 12 potential, I kind of went a little bonkers, but what I was trying to envision is like, could you do something where you could pull out the pieces of almost any verb phrase? And maybe I'll walk you folks through this so you don't have to, no one has to jump in without like looking at it. So here's some things. You ready? Already happened, finally, just now, suddenly. So that's your first set of preverbs. Klesh or shish. Oh, do we see one of those?
Ah,
I vote for Clash.
Okay.
yes.
So now it should be combining them for us down below.
Oh.
And then we have ade and ach and anach. I don't think we have those. Kach, no. Kudach, kut, nope. Oh, I guess we should keep going through these. Towards it, away from it, through it. Very. Really, too much, also too much in a contracted form, lost. Starting, ḥuné. This one you could fill in. So if you have an adverb, you can just go ahead and write it in there. Like some adverbs might be gedein, ḥushgedein, ḥitzindein. Whoops, that should say doc or doc. They have to fix that one. So yun and yunde, ḳuxte, ḳacht, doc. So I'll have to fix this error here, but this is doc or ducte would be going inland, off a fire, up towards the sky. Ducte, out to sea, out to the open. And then you have doc, but it's ducte in the future. You have doc, and it's ducte in the future. Ḳuch, returning, ḳuxte in the future. Ḳacht, doc is mistakenly. Yun to completion, and then yunde is that one in the future. None of those are there. Ya,
Why are these in different places?
because
There's some significance to their exclusivity.
It's like you, in English, you should be saying Clifford the Big Red Dog and not
Okay,
Clifford.
putting them in the right order.
They do occur in a certain order.
Okay, gonna cheat.
So this was my sort of like project towards the end of last semester, was trying to figure out like could I, and I just kept saying them over and over and looking at them and figuring out I think that they have to go. But you see them, they do flip around sometimes. Ya is a long, or sometimes it's just built into the progressive. K is upwards, ye is downwards. These are the ones that are built into progressives and futures though. So there's a ye that has a high tone, which you see down here, and a K with a high tone as well, which maybe I need to add. You, to and fro, that one's usually used for na conjugation repetitives. It has to pop up for na conjugation repetitives. And then you have a high tone U, which is thus as stated, whereas opposed the high tone ye is thus as follows. Here's an indirect object that you could fill in, like you could say ach'in, du'in, hastu'in, those types of things. And then you have chush to the self, woosh to each other, and then has or dach or daqa, which would be pluralizing the third person object or subject. Okay. So I do think here is where I'll put nashle. I'll just add, I don't know where to put it. Maybe I need one for just general directionals. I don't know.
I think it's for adverb.
Say it again?
I would think it would be adverb.
Yeah, we'll put it in there. Because it's a directional, but yeah. And then we do have, that's correct with the ya. So here we have our objects. So here's some of them, the one we've been talking about, to the self, something, someone, or a person, y'all. I must be missing something. It seems to be missing. Oh, wait, no, I know where it is. Sorry, I have to remember what I did. Us and me. So why is missing?
Because it's attached.
Yeah, so here's a preverb object and then a prefix object. You have ḳ, people, zero or a, third person, and then you. Here you have comparative, ka, and you have ḳ, the aerial, given some sort of space. Yi for time, qa for mouth, ха for hair, waq for eye, ta for giving news, t for inside, sh for the end of something, sha for the head, sa for the neck or the voice, sh for the nose or the point, ḳi or ké for the dawn or daybreak, j for the hand, da around or about, and for an athematic verb. And that's not all of them, but this we could do lots of them. This ya is the, oh, I had to remember my cut. Okay, this is the vertical surface, and this is round. This cut is round, and this cut is horizontal surface. So those are your 4 thematic spots that you can have. Your conjugation prefix are also organized by the spots where they could be in. So you have g is your only option here, and that is present in all futures. Then you have the irialis, which is present in spot number 2. Number 3 cannot have something because number 1 has been activated. So 1 and 3 are sort of, you can only have one or the other. To recap, g is for g conjugation verbs or for all futures. N is for n conjugation verbs and all progressives. And then you have, oh, okay, there we go. Here you can have q mode, which is different than q conjugation, which is on 3, or the perfective marker, and we do have g, q, and we have I for you as the second person subject, and then we have 0 as the classifier. And so this does populate them for us down here, which I thought was really cool. But I think the next step is getting something that can say ya, gu, qa, I is yaqi. But you are that thing. You are the missing computer. You are the magic genius that will make this thing go completely. Questions, thoughts, concerns, complaints, laments?
Renee,
Oh,
does this align with I think it does, the 27 different slots that are possible?
I think it does. And so, but it really tries to just show you what those things are. And I don't, there's a couple things I left off, like self-benefactive is not on here because that's just such a rare thing. I think it's important. Like there's a difference between saying us-y and uckus-y. But I don't know if that difference has been sliding or not. Like the way I understand it is us-y should mean they are cooking it, and uckus-y should mean they are cooking it for themselves. And you would have ause-y, they cooked it, and you would have a gaudze-y, they cooked it for themselves. But I think that's a very rare thing, so I just left it off. So my goal wasn't to have all of the potential things that are there, but instead have all of the most common things that we're encountering, with the idea that you could take a tlingit verb phrase and tease it out through this, which you don't have to use, but it's just a tool to sort of show us how those things are there. But then also the hope was to sort of put this and maybe like have some templates to say, here's a future, right? So if you have a future, like I could change this. If I change this to cha, then you have kech nash e ikḳwadeiḳ. But before we start altering that, what do you think we have now for our translation? Kech nash e ikḳwadeiḳ.
You won't boat very far.
You won't boat very far. You won't boat very far. Which I guess I need a spot for that. I could just add it here. Or you could just say far. I don't know. You won't boat far. So you should be able to, I guess, yeah, there's another thing. So this does not handle stem variation also. This is really just a prefix analysis tool. So we see that this is low, long and low, because it's a negative future verb, and that's what we should expect from the stem. But what if I cut off tleit? And we don't have to redo everything on the things underneath. But if I were just to type it, what would I be typing now? Or can somebody say it? What would it sound like? If I cut ʼatudli off of it. ʼatudli.átk. What's my next letter going to be?
You.
Hi.
I
Don't
can.
know.
And then how do we translate? T'aawáḳ.
You will vote for.
Right? So just continuing to think about when we interpret this stuff, then we say, okay, I can use this verb. I can use this in different ways, right? And the prefix hasn't changed at all. Yay. Okay. So now I can duplicate this, I think. And let me just reset everything. And our next phrase. So going back. So t'aawáḳ. In, okay. Which do you folks want to do this on this sheet or back to the other one?
This wasa.
Okay. Let's try the other one again. I just want to see. I'm also testing this stuff to see is this helpful? I don't know.
I think it is. A couple of years ago, I had such a hard time sorting out all the parts and keeping straight what's what, and I can't say I can do that clearly now. I think I'm just more comfortable trying. So I find this super helpful as a sorting tool to help narrow down and have limited options in each category. That's super helpful, especially with the conjugation parts. Of course, the conjugator is a huge help for that too. So anyway, I like it so far.
Sheesh.
A question about that in. How is that being used?
Okay, let's take care of this, and then we'll have that whole sort of part, because they're all like, there's sort of three things right next to each other that probably relate to the thing before it. So we will talk about that, but let's come back to it. So I'm gonna add something here. So this is gonna be adverb or motion. And this ʼaakw is a motion. Those are two words, but that's one thing. Does anybody know what that one thing is talking? I don't think I have this on a list of things. It's not on a drop-down menu. I don't think.
I think I found it's around, like driving around somewhere.
I don't think it's driving around. What am I gonna fix it? Oh. There, I think I fixed that.
Does it have to do with like flipping over?
Yes. Flipping over.
I found it in the verb.
Yeah. Yuck. So like Daki llitsu yijin, kochi llitsu yijin, daki llitsu yijin, yillechwal yijin, llingid yach anaitech, you yach yinak. Turn around. That's what it's all about. Just kidding. It's in the hokey pokey. But yach means that it also means you can have any sort of motion verb on there. So you can say ʼaakw. I turned it over, right? And they would say, I think they'd say ʼaakw watuatan yahasichi. I think that's a phrase that people say at ḳutí. We have turned over our empty bowl. Because when the money was all given out, they used to take the big old bowl that the money was in, or the bentwood box, or whatever it was in, and tip it over. And sometimes some clans, like the ḳutí, had a song and have a song that goes with that moment. So ʼaakw means to turn over. And it's another one of those things, I think, once you see it, you won't see it all over the place, but you will start to notice it when everyone's talking about a boat tipping over or something like, well, that's what we're getting to. Oops. I got ahead of myself. Okay. What is in it? What's the next thing we need to? Components activate.
Zero object.
Are we all doing it together, or is we gonna have one person do it?
Oh yeah, somebody want to drive? I'm not. There we go. Who's driving? Who's doing this? Can't even see.
It's me.
It's a ʼaakw, right? The color matches the thing. So there's ga'uqa. And what's the? We'll check the. This might be. I'm gonna guess it's object intransitive. I don't think it's sh. I'm also not convinced there's a subject, but that's okay. That's okay. So for the classifier,
Sure. Be
we should have
just that.
sh. So it's a plus d minus I. There's nothing there that could knock that vowel out, the sh. It's also very common to hear gqwa, but this is often written as gqa. But it's both are totally fine. And so like whenever you write a language, you have to standardize stuff. But you can, like, as we talk about these things, like if you hear a speaker like T'aawáḳ, or if you listen to ikþwadeiḳ and you really listen hard, they probably have a W after almost every underlined G, K, or X. They just do. And to say ḳqwa or ḳqqa or ģqwa or ģqqa, there's no difference between those. Do we know this verb?
Capsize.
Yeah.
Or sink.
It's so let's go look up ḥīn. We'll go look for ḥīn. ʼaakw. That's our verb right there. Capsize of a tippy canoe. But it's like any boat, for any boat to flip over. This is a verb for a boat to flip over. And if we just want to go look, and so we could, like, so this is for a hard or solid object to drop, for liquid to spill. And then also we see this is, with this st, what does this tell us? Do we remember?
The state verb,
Stative.
but I don't remember what it means.
It means stative, but as far as what they're talking about here,
There's no object, no subject.
only an object, no subject. And if we go further down, tr, both an object and a subject. in, only a subject, no object. And I don't know if we're going to find the rare. im, neither. So this, they are telling you, and if there's a question mark, they're like, I don't know. And so it gets really tricky too, because there could be some things that only have an object, but you usually only talk about them in the third person, right? Like I don't think you say, I'm a cook you. Well, I guess you might. You'd be talking to like a It's a cruel thing to say to like a shrimp or something. I wouldn't say it. But like those have objects, but some of them are pretty much always third person. So we're going to look at capsize. Just it's always good practice when we learn a verb to go look it up and see what we can find about it. So here's two. So you say duyaku, duin, ʼaakw, ʼuakwat. So that would be just a U instead of two O's. And then we see as a result of being basically tippy and unstable. So they're a little different. A'akw, jechin. So yak, a'akw, ishchench. Peg vowel. Boom. It's because we talked about it, now we brought it into being. I'm convinced. There was a linguist who told me, he says, you're just in tune now. No. Sometimes we find something and the ancestors put it from, I don't know, maybe. Okay, anyways. Any questions about it?
What happened to the GI in that verb?
The GI?
Yeah.
The J?
Yeah. No, the JI. Oh my God.
So we would write this as D plus SH. That's how we write it now. So just in terms of like thinking of and
I thought that was a thematic for hands. Sorry.
no, so that's this sometime in our lifetime. This book will be republished and it'll say exactly how they said it, and then right next to it, this will say there'll be these two lines, line. Hold on. I think I even have it done this far. I'll show you folks what it's going to look like.
Well, before you go.
Okay.
I mean,
before you go, could we look at this one verb?
Well, yes, we can.
I mean, I'm just confused because it has two different stems. It's got guat and sheen, two really different ones. So, but in the sentences that talk about them, it's really hard to tell what the difference is between the two of them. Why would you use one versus why you might use the other one?
Can anybody see it?
One is that it's transitive, the other's intransitive. Or
well, if we we'll look up the Wooch one too, and then we'll come back to it. I think I can see why, and so we'll come back. But if we go down, we see to capsize, also a stative. So that one is also only an object. So it's a great theory.
Okay.
But when we go back, sometimes what we need to do with this is a wonderful dictionary. They did such amazing work. And so when we come in, we say capsize, overturn of canoe or boat. Then the next one, capsize as a result of being basically tippy and unstable. So if I spent like a whole year building this boat and you use this verb on my boat, after we get back to the shore, we're going to have to fight. Or I'm going to have to just swallow my pride and say, yeah, I made it. So this is saying the boat is unstable. That is, and it tipped. This one is saying it tipped over. We have nothing to say about the boat. It just tipped over. But this is saying this boat was tippy. And this is probably an important sort of, now if we come back to this, we say there's a judgment here, right? And I'll show you, there's a similar verb, I think, but that does a really different thing. So I guess what you're saying here is this boat tipped over, and you're saying this boat tipped over because it's a tippy boat. Like that's a big deal. We're like canoe going people, and we are like, and I've been in, as maybe someone's just learning how to make dugouts or maybe whatever. But if you're in a dugout and it's tippy and you're out on the ocean, that's like a scary thing.
So in the first Wooch, they're just saying, okay, it capsized. And in the parentheses, they're saying probably as a result of being basically tippy, but it also could have been because of a whale came and something like that. It's not, they're trying to help explain it, but to me, it's like they're basically saying, I mean, I want to make sure they're not saying the reason it capsized is it was tippy and that's part of the verb. It's not part of the verb.
I think it's in the
just,
second verb. I think the first verb says
it's in the second verb. In the first verb,
yeah, the
though, it's
first
just
one
it
says
capsized.
it tipped over. The
Yeah,
second is
and
like
where
that tippy
maybe
boat tipped over.
and maybe because it was tippy, but not necessarily.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Goodness, gee, sorry. Rabbit hole. Hope I never have to use this.
Well, yes, right. Like I hope our boats never turn over. I was in a canoe training class, so and they made us tip our canoe over, just so that we had been in a canoe that had tipped over, so it would be ready. But if you look up spill, you're going to find a similar thing, but with a bit more of a concrete reason why there's two different verb roots, two different verbs to say the same thing. So when we go all way down to spill, I forget how many S verbs there are. And when we were using language at the language nest, we had to get the difference between these. So we could see one. These both have yach in front of them, not yach, but they do have yach. And you have ʼaakw, which is transitive, they spilled it. And then you have ḳawchin, which is object intransitive, it spilled. So this is another thing. Be like, oh, it spilled. They spilled it. So those are very different things. So if I ever spilled it, I would probably just use this one. Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay. But coming back, like this wonderful dictionary there's just information it didn't have. And the reason it didn't have it is because I think the understanding of Tlingit wasn't necessarily there yet. And so what my plan is to retype this whole thing, integrate them into the new dictionary, but probably have a republished version of this just so that we can be like, oh, remember this wonderful book. And when you go look up a verb like capsize, and I got all the pictures from here because Ida scanned them. And we go up, so here's capsize, plus yach plus 0, guach. And so they should actually probably have another 0. Like I do think there should be an object there. So I do think I need to fix that. And then same with this one. So I need to probably put that there. But now I need to mark that so I remember. Okay, I'll just do it later. But anyways, all these lifelong projects. Okay. It's going to take us a life just to analyze these verbs. Right, so continuing to put it together. The genius of these ancestors. Now let's put it together because we also have this een part, right?
Is it saying with that or as a result of that?
Yeah, and so it's with it, and I think it's going to be, well, what do you folks think? I gave you too many answers already. And so, like this part, okay, so it was told to me, my grandparents said it, right? And so just thinking of like, what could this brilliant speaker be thinking of? Maybe they say, and then adds maybe it's like, oh, it wasn't just told to me by a person, it was actually my grandparent. So just giving you a little bit more information like this. And then we get to this big thing. Like this is we're getting into parable territory where we've got metaphor, there's all kinds of stuff going on here. Any thoughts on that translation?
Well, it sounds like you're getting warned that if it's stormy, you're not going to go very far, and your canoe could capsize.
Well, if you drive past the boat launch when it's windy, you won't get very far before your boat
Yes.
capsizes.
Yes. So if you go past the canoe trail, and when it's stormy on you, you won't go far before your boat capsizes, right? And like all these pieces are there, right? Okay. So you could, like, if you wanted to sort of continue to do this analysis type of work, which is, I'll just be, to be honest, like this is very mechanical sort of work, but we are going to balance this mechanical type of work with some language production work. I do think this is copy of copy of copy. Okay, let's see how long it will let me do that. I'm not going to rename them. It says copy of copy of copy. So we'll go up here. We'll type our new phrase. Erase. Erase. Oh, let's see. What verb mode is this?
Future.
Yes.
Actually, it's negative future.
Negative future. T'aawáḳ.
This future?
Future?
Future.
Okay. Anybody want to drive the verb mobile?
Hold up, I don't think my screen updated to it. I guess not then. Oh, never mind. It's
Or you could command me. What do you think we got? Ooh, the wombat's on the case.
Got a yay.
We have a yay. Is that 6? No. 8? No. 9. Oh, there it
I
is.
feel like you're being Vanna White. There's a yay.
Then you got it. Oh, never mind. Somebody already got that.
Oh, this should be like a thing at board, like a what do you call those? Game show?
Mhm.
Survey says, bing! Yay! Oh, where'd it go? Butesa. ʼaakw. Yay! Oh, okay. We need the high tone yay, wherever that one. Ḥut. Da. Okay. We need to deactivate conjugation spot 4. Mr. Sulu or whoever. Who do we command on the star deck? Okay. The classifier will be 0, which means this ya is a thematic prefix. And we know that because if I were to change, like, if I were to say, ikþwadeiḳ, it is being said to me, right? And so we'll change that back to a 0. There we are. Any takers on the translation?
Thus they said to me.
Well, my fingers were like one spot. Okay. Although
Thus they told me. I don't know.
I want you to get out of the past tense though.
Oh.
Tell me. They say to me.
I guess it's they are.
They are telling me.
They are saying Or we might say they are saying this to me. Let's just switch it to that. Verb mode?
Perfective.
Imperfective.
Imperfective.
And I would say there are two kinds of imperfective, and it's worth noting which one it is. Your two options.
Progressive imperfective.
Well, no, let's
No.
I'm going to suggest we just call that progressive. Just to drop the imperfective because that doesn't do, I don't think it does anything for us. So for an imperfective, you can have an act or a state. If it is an act, the classifier will be minus I. If it is a state, the classifier will be plus I. And the classifier for this is
Plus I. Right.
That's minus I.
minus I.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah is the plus I.
I was like,
So this is an act imperfective. Anya nachtla.
Can you just say again how you knew that this yeah was the thematic and not the conjugation?
Yes, because I know how to. I have heard this as to say like it is being said to them. A lot of stories use this fourth person, and they'll say ye da ya duqa, da ya duq, and that just tells you right there. And then there is. And just knowing this verb likes to be in either the imperfective or the future. I don't think it when you go perfective, it will want you to switch to a yausaka.
What would you expect if it was the conjugation then? Like do what?
Well, it would be yechat, and this would be dawaka. It would have to
Okay.
be a W, although there is no verb with that, but you would say yawaka, so yawa, so
Thank you.
this ʻaakw.
You- you said something about if it was act verb, it would be minus I. If it was a state, it would be plus I. And with the I thing, I'm always thinking that's sort of like it's real, it's happened, almost like a irrealis sort of thing. So if it's an act, that means it's ongoing, but it's not completed. But so
It's happening right now, so it like the plus I sort of says it happened or became that way. That's how I like to look at it.
okay,
Although the one exception is potential.
okay. But then with the state, if it's minus I, why?
A state will be plus I in the imperfective.
Oh,
Yep.
oh my gosh.
Yanni, because they're sick. Shitzin, because they're strong. It is that way.
Okay. It's plus I.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. Gonna cheesh.
Wonderful stuff. Okay, we're getting it. Okay. Aqa, and then they say to me, Atanach yan yakuchu. We're getting into some. I do love trinket metaphors. Okay, we got to make a copy of a copy of a copy. Is it going to go to 4 copies? I could just rename these, but. Okay, so we're going to. There's probably an easier way to do all of this stuff too. Someday we'll figure it out. I do feel like something can be made that does this for us. Like some sort of program or something, but I don't know. Okay, so we do have sort of a directional thing. Tanakh. Which I'd want to, well, I don't know. So there's a few different things that are these directionals that like to have a letter K on them, like talk, ʻaakw. But that yik, so let's just look at some examples, right? Let me switch out of here for a second while we sort of just analyze this thing. So we're just going to put this down here. So you have talk, and you have yik, and you have take. And so these all, like, so this one is in a cavity or under the water or in the water deep enough to submerge. Yik is in a special set of things, in the road, in a boat, in the river, in a forest, in a tree. Take is behind something. But there is something that happens where this K can disappear. So you can say T'aawáḳ, táakw, and you can also say, oops, don't do that. You could say T'aawáḳ, and you could say yich, and you could say, I think you'd say yinach. That's an interesting one. You could say deixʼ, and you could say déinach. So what happens here is there are some suffixes that can just replace that letter K. And I think that is what you have going on here. So táakw would be the bottom, like in the water, and so t'aawáḳ would be along in the water or along the bottom, along some sort of cavity. It gets a little tricky on how to sort of interpret that. It depends on what sort of comes after it. And the yanyakukhu is what we're going to sort of get to. So this one, I am going to say ʼatudli.átk is going to be through the submergible water. And then we're going to get yanyakukhu. Does anybody want to, so going through anything we're looking for, like we're going to exclude this part, let's see, the ʼatudli.átk. We know it's there, but we're not going to analyze that in this. But we're looking for yan. It pops up in number 8. Is there an object or a thematic prefix? Not in this verb. So we should go straight for, I'm looking for a conjugation, a subject, and a classifier. There's 3 things left. I see your y, but I'm going to suggest I. Which gets tricky because if you have you, like this is going to be, well, it's a subordinate perfective. So this means what we're looking for is a perfective marker, a subject, and a 0 for the classifier. But if it was plural, it would be ye. You would have to have y-e-e-y up in the verb itself. So we're sort of reverse engineering just to see how did we get to ye? Yanyakukhu. Just like this. So this is, for our mode, this is a subordinate. Perfected. That means it's a perfective verb, but it's tied to something else. So that means we're going to get one of these when, or that, when. And what does the yun part do with this, especially this motion verb?
It's like landing to shore.
Yes. That when you boat ashore. So that gets our definition. So coming back, there's such cool quotes. There's such fun stuff.
I think it would be helpful when, like, you put yun in 8, but we don't see what the other parts, what's similar to yun in 8. I mean, some of that stuff is like, okay, it's not directional, it's, so it'd be useful to be able to see that drop down menu just to say, oh, okay, I'm going to be able to find stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point, because if I let other people drive, we can't see the drop down when they're dropping it down, which is interesting. Like, I didn't know that. But yeah, so like it's in this spot with into the shadows, or into the interior, out to
So
sea.
I might not know exactly what it is, but I know what kind of thing it is, and it would maybe help me figure it out from the context as well.
Yeah, yun is to completion, but if you're using it in some motion verbs, especially like boating, it also means to go ashore. So if I say yankuch, that means go ashore. Yanyakuch, y'all come ashore. You're going to end up with a zero classification or zero conjugation with that. Okay. That's a good point. Sheesh. So coming back, okay, that or when you go ashore, wasa ye ikḳwadeiḳ. I need to make one adjustment here. There we go. Oopsie. Okay.
Why did you make it low tone if it's in the future?
This one stays low.
This one, okay.
Yeah, so when you have the neich verb, house and neich, it stays low. So wasa, I think we can just put it here. I don't know. I haven't quite figured it out. Maybe, I don't know.
Click.
Yeah, there it is. What else? Let's see. There's 5 things that need to go on the bottom row. Cajun ʼatudli, táakw.
You're the object.
Here it is, the prefix object. Yes. There you are. Ga.
It's a future thing, so it's tāawáḳ.
And then there is no subject for this verb. There's only an object. So all we have left is the classifier. There we go. What's the mo?
Future.
What's the translation?
How you are saved? How you will be saved?
How you will be saved.
How it saved you, or how you will be saved. How it will save you.
Although, like,
there's
so,
no subject, so it's just
yeah,
how you will be saved.
There is an S classifier version, which would be it will save you, they will save you. But this is like, you will be safe, you will survive, you will be okay. It kind of depends. Like, there's a lot of ways you could sort of look at that. Ye ayayati ya ʼatk ahin wushku wadnade. So ye ayayati we've I give myself a high five because I put my hand up. I don't know why I put my hand up. Where's my hand down? Okay, I don't know how to do it. Lower hand. Okay, there we go. So putting it all together, anybody want to take a stab at it? Ye'ayayati ya'atkahin ushquwanate. There's a lot. There's so much in just this one sentence, which is why I'm so glad we're taking the time this semester to like pull them apart. Just to look, these are really high examples of language. What about that last part? Ye'aya yati ya'atkahin ushquwanate.
This right here. Yeah.
Well, ye'aya yati is like, this is how it is. What about
I
ushquwan?
had a hard time with the guanade. I had a hard time translating it.
Differently?
Yeah, I got differently. It's different.
This is how it is for believers of different things. Isn't that wild?
What is the whoosh doing there, though?
Ushquwanade is like different from one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so that's where you get like, yeah, different from one another. So you could say wushquwanade hasputi. They were different from one another. Okay, before we go, I know you guys have questions too. Wushtayin and wushtakatan. If you're talking to kids, these are important. And what would I be talking about? Especially way back when we were the sample verb that we were talking about that brought up the subject popping up in the plus D classifier is ʼatudli.átk. And now sometimes when you look at the ʼatudli, ʼhastutili, itoasaku wushtayin, kesli toashku wushtakatin. It's the key that'll take you home or keep you home, get you off this Zoom. We uski ʼatudli, ʼhastutili, itoasaku wushtayin, kesli toashku wushtakatin. Wushtakatin, chakutye de isane.
Is it to put on or take off? To be on or off?
It has to do with on and off. When kids put their shoes on, you want them to be wushtayin. You don't want them to be wushtakatin. Little kids especially.
On the right foot.
Yes. This means your shoes are on the right feet. Facing each other, facing away from each other. I asked Shakshani, how do you say that? Because I thought of this because I was just in a school teaching, and some of the kids, like, it didn't matter. Some of them were wearing like kind of big puffy boots, and so they didn't care. And I wasn't gonna tell them. So.
I think this illustrates a urgent need for all of us to take preschool. Think it preschool. We could learn the hokey pokey. We could how to take our shoes off and put our coats on and wash our hands. I mean, we would learn so much basic stuff.
I could have taught, this class could be titled Hokey Pokey, a grammatical analysis. Because you say dock, away from the body, yishitsu, move the stick-like objects, yijin, kuch, behind the body, yishitsu, y'all move the stick-like objects. And then Klingit yach, Klingit yach, anait, y'all dance like Klingit. You ayach yinak, y'all turn around. And then I think they say ye naqati, which is uncontracting the ye naqati, but it's just fine. And ya nakhla.
I just had my question was just going to be, does ʼatk mean believers? Because I recognize the verb in there, but then why is it a noun?
It's a verbal noun, so you could say
Okay.
ʼatk would, as a verb, would mean you'd say ʼatk. So it goes minus I to become a noun, which is one of the ways that things can become nouns. So ʼatk, which means they believe in something. That's all it means, is they believe in something. So ʼatk means the believers in something. And as he's sort of like, this is all part of a much larger story and a much larger speech where he's sort of he goes on about the ḳunaqi and the safe harbor. This is from the Raven book, if you want to go sort of see this in context. And I'll post a link, I'll put a link to that in our class for tonight. But he does talk, and what he's saying is like, when there's a storm, you got to get out of the water. And no matter what you believe, like people they just know that. But he's using this as a metaphor for our life and all these different things. It's an amazing passage because he's talking about this raven story, and I think he tells a couple of them in a row. And then he moves towards these sort of a number of different things. So he and Horace Marks made this recording in Haynes, and it's a long one. And he goes, and Horace chimes in on a few different things. But on this in particular, he was talking about just these trinket parables and the ways that we live by them, which are when you say when the water's rough, you got to get off the water. And like there's a whole bunch of things in English as well that are things like this, where they talk about this. And so this is something, and grammatically, like there's so much stuff we could pull out of here. And we'll do this stuff again. Like the last thing I want you to sort of look at before we go is I did some of this type of stuff at the suggestion of some language teachers when we were talking about ḳutí and ʻaakw and ʰutí and ʻaakw and táakw, this series of books that are coming out. The books are coming out, and then the other thing that's coming out is there's these workbooks that are coming out. And one of these workbooks, I was doing some work on these to sort of say, okay, so here's a workbook for ḳutí. Here's all the most common words in ḳutí. And so what I want us to do is once we translate this, I think we have one or two more sentences to come, but we might take a break from them. And so we're going to do like one more exercise and sort of whole language stuff. And what we're going to do is take a look at these words and make sure we know every one of these are the most common words that are not verbs in ḳutí. And as we go through, just saying, do we know all of these words? And I think we do. But I'll put a link to this thing up as well. But then when we get into the verbs, this is what the single verb looks like in the story. This is the verb theme that it comes from. But then when you go, and this is the number of times that verb, so the city verb, in all of its many modes that it may appear, it's in that story 6 times. And so, and here it just shows you the different ways it appears. And then when you go down below this was where the request came in. Like some of the teachers said, well, someone's going to see something like ʻutí, and you can't pull that out and know what it means, you know, like especially a learner, like it's difficult. So then when you go down here, here's the theme, here's the verb, ʻanyadixati, the mode, the translation, and the components. So just sort of like showing folks and doing some of this work that we just did. So when you go through and you get to the perfective, it changes. And here is this so it could happen mode. I do think we're going to have to change it from purposive to something that's a little bit more familiar. But 0, na, qa, sa, ti, and the T suffix on there. So this is something I've been working on. I want you to take a look at it, think about it, and we're going to do some of this work, and then we're going to read ḳutí again after all these years. And after doing all this work, when we look at it and look at those sentences, so this shows you all the verbs that are in there, and it translates all of the verbs for you. But then when you come in, then you could do the translation work. Oh, this is pretty long, sorry. And then you could do eventually some time. Then you do the translation yourself. So again, like just really guided sort of resources, thinking about this stuff, the color coding, the components. What we did tonight was really look like really pulling them far apart, just to sort of see there's a certain order that they appear. And my hope is that by doing that, when you continue to assemble these, you'll be like, oh yeah, this thing goes here, this thing goes there. And we will get to language production. I know, we're just in this is week 2, week 3? Goodness.
Is it week 3?
I only work here. Shush, cool.
I was wondering, was that resource still like in the development stage, or can we find it somewhere?
Well, I'll put that version up. So this is what is up there is a copy. And so you can do whatever you want with it. And I'll also link to the current Excel and numbers versions of it. And feel free to mess around with it. And eventually I want to have a tool that I think people can, I don't want it to be so cumbersome that it's not useful, but I want to be able to like just see like these things pop up and it's all predictable. It's a lot, but it's all predictable, especially like futures, like those things, they have to be in these certain spots. And then we see how these verbs are being used, and then hopefully we're able to start assembling those ourselves.
Yeah, cool. And then I had a second question.
Hey.
My second question was, I was reflecting on it this morning, and I was like, man, I feel like I'm not quite to the point where, like, in class, I feel like everything is just kind of going over my head, so I'm not quite to the point where I'm able to catch it quite yet. And so I was wanting to refer back to the book, the verb description book that you had us look into last semester. And I was looking around, and I ended up looking at other resources as I was digging around, but I couldn't find the exact link. Is it somewhere specific that I can look on the website?
So there's the verb components handbook, and then there's I can't remember what I've named the other one. But I will put links to both of those on tonight's class as well. Just because, as we go back to those, I want to try and finish them because they're not finished. Because a cool thing related to maybe all of this is we found a book printer, and we're going to get like hard covers of the dictionary, and we're going to get a spiral bound with a flip cover of the conjugator. We're going to get some of this stuff and probably just going to run it hopefully within the next couple months. I don't know how long all this stuff takes. But then just to have it in our hands. And the conjugator, I think, is going to be color-coded, maybe with tabs, so you could flip to the command form and flip to the hortative, and then you could flip through it from there.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Sweet.
Then I could just go disappear for a year. Go find a ʼatudli.átk. Anything else? Any other thoughts, questions?
Are we going to get the sign up so we can have times to hang out on Zoom together?
Yes, I will build it tonight and we'll put it on our class webpage. I promise.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Well, I'll delete this from the video though before I put it on YouTube. I'm just kidding.
I just wanted to mention, if we are going back to the beginning workbook, the link in the advanced section gets a 404, but if you go to the beginner section, it works.
Okay. So when you get a 404 at UAS, it says whale, like the animal whale. This is embarrassing. And I don't know if they've done it yet, but I said this should also say, I don't know what happened there. So
I think it came up one time as yai, this is embarrassing or something.
But
I was like, yay, this is embarrassing. What? Because my brain didn't switch
Double
over
check it.
and get ready.
Okay, I'll tell you one last thing. This made my kids so mad because they were very little when I said it to them. Adatki. Yisikuge. Ya yuqatangiwe khosaku. Aqaawe ach yadi yosaka. Qeqage? Ah. Ya. I get so mad. That's it. The Zoom is shut down. Bilchish plain.
Quick question
Ah.
before you. Maybe you've said it and I've missed it, but I was wondering about our stories from the end of last semester. You said there was going to be feedback, and I don't know. Did you post that anywhere? Or
Don't know if I did. But maybe email me your version if you want feedback, and then I'll do it.
okay.
I did it for one person, maybe. I remember, like, whenever we have a break, I was like, this is what I'm going to do over break. And then you know what I do over break? I just break. But I should be giving you feedback on your story. Because, yeah, and we can revisit those, especially as we get more and more of knowledge of how to put these things together. Okay.
Yes, geez.
Nashish.